what are some of your what are the books? Let's just stick with books for a second that you've either most gifted to other people or most recommended to other people, because there are many people listening to this probably who won't necessarily have the opportunity to interact with the types of high-level folks that you and I are so fortunate to have the chance to interact with. But they can do that vis-a-vis books or narratives, documentaries,
Right.
etc. What are some books that have had a formative impact on you?
I mean, so if we go back to when I was 17, 18, Jack Kerouac had a huge impact on my life. On the Road, Dharma Bums. This was just these are the his books were what initially kind of tapped me into the idea that life could be ecstatically beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved into studying Taoism, so Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching, hugely, just unbelievably deep. But of course, the translation of that book that you read will be formative. And my favorite translation is the Jia Fu Feng and Jane English translation of the Tao Te Ching. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, I think one of the most important books ever written by Robert Pirsig, who has become a very dear friend over the years. When The Art of Learning came out, my publisher asked me, who would you love to read this book? And I said, well, the one person I'd really want to read that book is Robert Pirsig. But to me, that was just, he lived like a deeply secluded life.
Mm-hmm.
But they somehow managed to get him a copy of the book he got in a big bushel from his publisher, and he read it, and he contacted me and wrote. I mean, I was so honored that he was moved by it, and he and I, and over the years, it developed really interesting dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is one of the most important books in the world. The focus on quality, dynamic quality, learning to find art in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Deeply, deeply brilliant philosophical book. Shantaram, one of the most beautiful novels I've ever read. Gregory David Roberts, also someone I've gotten to know very well. Just a ecstatically beautiful, beautiful book. And, of course, I'm also a lover of fiction. I mean, Hemingway he's probably the most important writer of my life. Almost everything of his I've read.
Any particular novel stand out for you of his?
Oh, I think that For Whom the Bell Tolls, just exquisite novel. Green Hills of Africa, amazing. His short stories are utterly magnificent. I think Green Hills of Africa is one of the most underrated books that he's written.
Mm-hmm.
His complete collection of short stories. I mean, there's one magnificent gem after the next. Of course, Old Man in the Sea is the one everyone speaks about, and it's a beautiful book. I guess if I had to have a favorite, it would be For Whom the Bell Tolls.
For Whom the Bell Tolls. Yeah. For those people listening who also want insight into his writing style, A Movable Feast is
magnificent book. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, really,
and that's where Hemingway really speaks to his writing process. Fantastic book.
So fascinating.
There's a great book, by the way, Tim, which I think you've read, which is I think it's Hemingway on writing.
Yeah,
have you read this book?
I did read it. Yep, I also read that. Yeah,
I mean, if someone wants to get to know Hemingway, it's just a fantastic compilation of all of Hemingway's writing in letters, in his books, in his articles, everywhere, put together thematically, basically Hemingway on the writing process. I think it's one of the most important little collections of on creativity that I've ever run into. Absolutely brilliant book.
And it's really short. I remember I read it on Kindle on a short flight that I had, and just jammed right through the whole thing. One of the recommendations was Write Drunk, Edit Sober, and I realized that Write Drunk, Edit Sober does not translate to podcasts very well. The last podcast that I did with my buddy Kevin Rose, if you record drunk and try to edit sober, it doesn't really actually work the same way.
Right. That's interesting.
Oh, man.